In this video, I'll be going over how I built the ultimate AI real estate agent using NAN and VAPI. What this agent does is it allows you to search on Zillow for properties that are being sold by owners, get details about these properties, and then outbound a call to these owners. We're then going to use our AI agent to evaluate these calls and update everything into a Google Sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this workflow at a high level, and we're going to explain what each node is doing step by step, and then we're going to build it all from scratch. But before we get into the high level workflow, I am quickly going to show you this workflow in action from start to finish. So we've got a form here, which I'm going to fill out with a few zip codes we want to search. So I think these are some zip codes in Texas maybe. And we're going to put in the maximum price of the properties we want to search for is going to be $1 million. I want to hit submit. Now it's going to go through all the different nodes that we've got here. It's going to find properties from those zip codes we've given it with the maximum price we've given it. It's going to filter out all based on our lead qualification criteria. It's going to find details about these properties, and it's going to outbound a call to these numbers, which I'm just going to change to my number for the sake of showing you how this works. And it's going to pretend like I'm going to pretend that I'm the owner of these properties or the property that's being called. And we're going to have a conversation about if I want help with selling my property. It's then going to update everything to Google Sheets, and then we're going to send out a full analysis email to our emails so we can see what the AI agents have been doing in the background. Okay, great. So it's gone and updated our spreadsheet that we've got for all of the properties, and you can see that it's got a few different properties here that it's found that match all of our criteria. Now it's actually gone ahead and found a contact number for this final entry here, which I'm not going to show, but I'm just going to change and paste that with my number, and then it's going to outbound a call to me. Now in reality, this obviously would be automated from start to finish, but I've just added a little break in the workflow here, and I'm going to execute the second part now. But in reality, this would be connected over into this node here. So now I'm just going to hit execute workflow here to start actually calling the leads, and I'm going to pretend to be the owner of the properties that it's found. So I'm going to execute workflow here, and I should expect to receive a call any minute. Perfect, there we go.
Hey, this is Dan from Solutions. Do you have a minute to talk about the
Yeah, sure, go on.
Great, I saw your home listed at 2393, so let's...
Yeah, I'm. Who are you? I mean, to be honest, it's been a bit of a nightmare. I mean, I thought it was going to be easy to sell it on my own, but it looks like I might need help from an agent, to be honest. But I was trying to avoid all of the fees that they usually charge.
Any sellers find it.
I was just getting all of these lowball offers and people not putting pen to paper. It's a nightmare, to be honest.
I'm really frustrated dealing with those.
Mostly time wasters, to be honest. But can you just set up a call with one of your agents? And I'm happy to have a chat.
I totally get it. Can't right now. Maybe open to a
Yeah, it's cool. Just note my name down, and yeah, I'm happy to have a call.
what one and take their time.
Yeah, tomorrow's great. So I'm just going to end the call there to show that how this works. I'm going to go back to our workflow, which is expect to receive the call details and update our spreadsheet. Amazing. So everything's gone through. We've got an updated spreadsheet now. Obviously removed my number from here, but this was a real US number before. And it's gone and filled out the call follow-up interest. It's given us some notes on our whole conversation. Interest, yes. So we know this is a lead that we would want to follow up in real life. Now I've also gone to my emails and it's sent us an analysis email to give us the full breakdown of everything we've got here. So it's got the results, hot leads we've got, immediate actions. It's told us how many properties were found, the owners contacted, interested sellers, etc. So this is a great full analysis breakdown that we can see. All we had to input was some zip codes and a maximum price, and it's given us back some hot leads that we can go and contact and make some more money with. What the workflow looks like from start to finish. Now we're going to go through a high level overview of each of these different nodes in just a moment. So like I said at the start of the video, what this agent does is it searches Zillow for properties based on if certain criteria are met. So the criteria that we're actually going to start this workflow off is going to be, we're going to give some zip codes that we want to search for properties in, and we're going to give a maximum price. This workflow is then going to start looking for properties on Zillow that are for sale by only, not by agents, and it's going to find all of these properties in these zip codes that we've given it. We're then going to qualify these leads based on certain criteria that we've given it. And this criteria is that if the property has been on the market for longer than 60 days, this meets our lead qualification criteria. We're then going to outbound a call to these sellers using VAPI, have a conversation with these sellers, and see if they're interested in setting up a call with one of our real estate agents for this fake company. When that's done, we're then going to evaluate the transcripts from this call, and then we're going to update everything into our Google Sheets. So going through the whole workflow node by node now, we're going to start off with the form submission. So if I just hit play on this node here, we're going to see that it pops up with the two fields that the agent wants us to fill in. So this is going to be the zip codes you want to search for and the maximum price of the property that we're going to be looking for. So I'm going to click off this now. So that's the first node. And then the information that we give from this form is going to go into our first agent, which is our zip code agent here. We're then going to find these properties using our tool, which is an Apify tool, and we're going to find all of these properties on Zillow. Now, as you can see, I've actually gone into the prompt for this agent, and I've told it to filter out only properties that have been on the market for 60 plus days. So that's the lead qualification criteria that I mentioned before. Obviously, you can adjust this for whatever lead qualification you want to be for your agent, but I've made it so that the properties must have been on the market for at least 60 days. And then we're then going to output all of these results that we found from this agent, and we're going to do that in a specific way using this structured output parser, which we'll get into more details when we actually get into the build. And we're going to send these URLs that we find for these properties into our next node, which is going to be another Apify tool where we're going to get some more details on all of these properties. So this tool basically finds the properties first, and then this gets loads of detail about those properties. We're then going to go and pass all of this information into a code node where we're basically just going to clean up this data, as this node actually pulls in a lot of different data, which we don't need. So we're going to add this code node here. We're going to clean that all up. And then we're going to pass this information into our next agent, which is the research agent. Now, what this research agent does is it takes out all of that information we've just given it about these properties that have met our qualification criteria and all the details about them, and it updates all of that into a Google Sheet, which I've created. So this is a Google Sheet here. We've got a few different fields. We've got the contact number, contact email, zip code, address, URL, property price, notes, full follow-up notes, and interest, which is going to be yes or no. These two last ones will make more sense when I get onto the last part of the workflow. But for the rest of these fields, they are going to be filled out with all the information that we found from those properties. Okay, amazing. That's our first part done, which is where we are going to actually find the leads. And in reality, you connect this part of the node up to here, and that would run the whole workflow from start to finish. I've just disconnected it because I don't want to go and call these random numbers. But in reality, you'd connect these two parts of the workflow up. Now, going on to the second part of the workflow is where we're actually going to be calling the leads. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the information that we've just updated to our Google Sheets. That's why we've got a node here, which gets that information from our Google Sheets. And then we're then going to filter out in our next node the data which we haven't managed to get some numbers from. So when we do find out details about these properties, sometimes the app is not able to find the contact numbers for these properties for various different reasons. But we're going to filter out all of that information here, and we're going to only pull the properties where we are able to find a contact number. Now, for these entries that we did find a contact number for, we're going to put these through a loop. So what we're going to first do is we're going to outbound a call to these numbers, and we're actually giving the agent in our VAPI prompt, which I'll come to later, information about these properties. So we're going to give it history about the property, where it is, what the neighborhood's like, any price drops, things like that. So the agent is going to have lots of background information and know exactly what it's talking about when it contacts these owners. We're then going to wait for the call to finish, and then we're going to get the transcript from this call. And then all of that information from the transcript is going to go into our call summary agent. Now, in the call summary agent, like I said just a moment ago, in our Google Sheets, those last two columns are about the outbound call that we're going to make. So the call summary agent is going to update those last two columns. If I go over there now, with call follow-up notes, and if that person is interested in setting up a call with the agent. So that's what these two columns are going to be filled out from by that agent, is if that person was interested in talking with one of our real estate agents, and this interest column was going to be yes or no if they want to set up a call. So it's easy for our agents to see if they're interested. And then that's all going to repeat in a loop for all the numbers that we found. And then when that is complete, we're then going to send off a full analysis email to ourselves to let us know what the summary is of what our agents have been doing in the background. So it's going to say things like how many properties were found, if there's any hot leads, how many people responded to our calls, things like that. Okay, so that's a full breakdown of the whole workflow. We're now going to jump in and build this from scratch. So the first step we want to add in is a trigger node. This could be for our form. So we're just going to search up form here, NAM form, and click on that. We're just going to put the form title as a property finder. And we're going to describe this. So I've just put it in with this description here to fill the details in to find high quality FSBO leads. So if I didn't mention it already, FSBO stands for for sale by owner. And the reason we're looking for sale by owner is because this allows real estate agents to find people that have tried to sell the property by themselves but may be struggling. Hence why we put that lead qualification criteria that the property has to be on there for 60 days. This might indicate that they have struggled to actually sell their property as quickly as they would have liked to. Okay, great. Now we're going to add in a couple form elements here. So we're going to click here twice, and we're going to put in the zip code and the maximum price we want to search for. So I've gone ahead and filled out all of the fields here. So make sure to just copy everything I've got here and tick the required field tab here to make sure that the user has to answer these fields. And then make sure to respond when the form is submitted. So this automatically triggers our workflow as soon as someone fills out this form. Now, the next node we want to add in is our AI agent, which is going to find these properties. But I'm quickly just going to run this workflow so that I have these fields so that we can drag and drop in to our AI agent node. So I'll just put some random numbers in here, doesn't matter. And then now we're going to add our AI agent. So I'm going to search for AI agent here, change this to define below. And now you can see that we've got these fields we can drag and drop over. So we want to make sure we change this to an expression, and then I'm going to put the zip codes we want to search for, and then I want to drag and drop this over here. And then I want to put in the maximum price. So then we can put this maximum price field over in here as well. So now the agent knows that for the form that we submitted, what are the zip codes you want to search these properties in, and what's the maximum price you want to look for. Okay, perfect. Then we want to quickly toggle on this require specific output format, and then we're going to come on to the reason why shortly, but make sure you just turn this on for now. Next in our properties, we want to add a system message. This is going to be like the baseline message that our AI agent has, what its task is every time it gets called. So I've gone ahead and copied and pasted the prompt in here, which again, you can always access in the description to copy these templates. Firstly, what it's going to do is going to find all the properties that we want based on the criteria we've given it. So the zip codes and the maximum price. And it's then going to filter these down to if it's been on the market for at least 60 days. So that's what qualifies our leads. We've then explained why these are quality leads to us, as these might express that the owner hasn't sold it as quickly as they would have liked to, and they may need some help from an agent. And then we've described exactly how we want to output the format to our Apify tool, which is going to come onto a sec to find these properties. Then scrolling down, this is the output format, which is why I told you to toggle on the structured output format, is because we want it to come out in a very specific format, which just give us the URLs of all these properties that match all of our criteria. So it's been on the market for 60 days, it's in the zip codes we want, it matches the maximum price, things like that. And then the rest of this prompt is to basically handle all different edge cases that could be given to this AI agent. Okay, so first we're going to add a structured output parser to this AI agent here. And this is basically going to tell our agent exactly how we want the output to be. So we want it to be that it gives the URLs out that it's found from our Apify tool. So I'm going to remove what's in here already, and I'm going to paste my example here. And it's basically exactly the format that we want it to come out. So it's got all the different URLs it's going to find from Zillow. Now, the next thing we want to add is our Apify tool. So we're going to search Apify here. You might have to download this. It might not pop up immediately, so you might have to download this into your NAN before you can do that. You just literally search up Apify here and then install the node. So we're going to click here, and then we are going to run an actor and get the data set from it. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone here. And then from our actor source, we're going to change this to Apify store actors. This will work for me because I've already used this actor, but this isn't going to pop up automatically for you. So change this to Apify store actors. Then we want to choose from a list here. Now to find the Zillow zip code scraper, we're going to literally type in Zillow, and you can see it's going to pop up with the zip code search scraper tool here. So we're going to click on that. And this is going to be the tool, like I said, it's going to find the zip codes and the URLs of all the properties that match our criteria. Then for the input JSON, we're going to let AI define this, but we are going to put a description so that the data that it puts in here is accurate every time. So I've gone ahead and copied and pasted what I've got from my workflow in here, but it essentially says how we want to send this data off to the Apify tool. Now, it's very important that actually comes in this format, because if it doesn't, it's not going to work correctly and we're just going to get errors. So this is very important to make sure that our data gets sent off to Apify correctly. Now, I did forget to mention, but you will obviously connect your Apify account here, which is really easy to do. You'll just be able to connect it through an OAuth connection. And once you've done it once, it'll be set up forever. Amazing. That's everything pretty much done from our Apify tool here. So now we just need to add a memory and a chat model. So because we're actually dealing with a lot of code here, and it's important how the output JSON gets sent off to our tools, and we have a specific structure format when we come out of this agent, it's generally best to use an LLM, which is best at this specific task. Now, generally for this, most people use Anthropic, Claude's model, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this example here. So we're going to search up Anthropic here, which is perfectly the first item, and it's going to select Cloud Sonnet, which is fine. We can use that. So this is probably the best model for writing code and creating code. So you may have noticed at the start when I went through the overview of this whole workflow, we actually use a few different models in this workflow here. And it was quite a good example how different LLMs are good at different tasks. And I'm going to go through why we use a Gemini model later and an OpenAI model later. But it's because essentially they're all good at different things. And in this instance, Claude's model is the best at this scenario where we want it to write some code and give us a specific output format. Now, as I mentioned in the prompt earlier, we have a specific output format we have here, which is why we've got a structured output parser. And it's going to be the output of all the URLs we're going to find. We're then going to send that to our next node, which is the next Apify tool. And this Apify tool essentially allows us to find details in all of these URLs, which is why it's important we have a really specific output format. So we're going to add our next tool in here. Again, search Apify, and we're going to hit on run an actor and get a data set. Again, we're going to change this to Apify store actors here, and then we're going to search what we want. So the actor that we want to use is the Zillow detail scraper tool. This is going to allow us to find details about all the URLs that we're going to give into this. Now, the input JSON that we actually want to put in here is the output that we're going to get from our AI agent. So I'm going to run the AI agent quickly so we can drag and drop this field over into this box. So I'm just going to hit play there and then let this work its magic. Now, you may have actually noticed I actually don't have a memory tool in here. And the reason for that is because we only submit one form input. So it's not like a chat trigger node where we might have gone back and forth with the agent. So it needs to remember what we've said. There's literally one input. So we don't actually need a memory tool here, but you can put one in if you really want to. Okay, so it's actually giving us a bit of a funny output, but that's fine. It's because we gave it some dodgy zip codes before, but we can still drag and drop this in here. It doesn't matter. It's going to work when we put real data into it. So that's fine. We can leave that there. And then that is our detail scraper tool done. And that's going to find us loads of information about these URLs that we're going to give it. Now, the next node we want to add in is a code node. And the reason for this is because I'm going to show you in a second, but when we run this Apify actor here, we're going to get loads of information back, more than we actually need. It's a tool that pulls in lots and lots of detail, and we actually only need detail about a few different things like the description, the contact number for the owner, things of that nature, but it pulls in 10 times as much as it needs to. So we're going to clean up all of that information in a code node. So we're going to search up for code here, and we're going to click on this one here, and we're going to choose the JavaScript one. I'm just going to get rid of, and then we're going to copy and paste in here code which I've created using Claude. Now, again, you'll be able to have access to all of this in the templates in the description. But essentially what this does is this cleans up all the data that we have and outputs all the fields that we actually care about. So things like the email, the phone, the price history, how many days it's been on the property market, what the bathrooms are, how many bedrooms there are, things like that. Now, I've actually shown you one of the runs I've got from running this tool. You can see how much data gets pulled in, and this is just for a few different properties. I think it was 4 properties this is for, and you can see I'm scrolling for ages and ages and ages. It pulls in way too much data. So that's why we have that cleanup tool, because if we don't, we're going to be sending too much information to our language model and it might fail. Now, after we've added in that, we want to add in our next node, which is the AI agent node. And this is going to be for our research agent. And this is going to be for our research agent to go and take in the details that we found about these URLs and update everything to our Google Sheets. So if you haven't already, you want to go ahead to Google Sheets and just create a data set quickly. Just call it whatever you want. I've called it real estate leads here in the tab. And then you want to create a table which has these different fields. So we have contact number, the contact email, the zip code, address, URL, property price, notes, follow-up notes, interest. You want to add all of these different fields in and make sure you name them exactly how I have, because we're going to reference them in our prompt. So going back to our N8N workflow here, we're going to change this to define below. We're going to make this an expression, open this up, and I'm just going to paste in here what I've got from my workflow that I created already. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to stringify, so it's going to make the input that we get from our code node, and it's going to change this to text so that the AI agent can read it and understand everything it's going to receive. So you want to go ahead and just paste this into your prompt here. Then once you've gone and put that in there, we want to add our system message. So I'm going to hit system message there. Change this to an expression, and then we're going to open this up, get rid of this. And again, I'm going to paste in what I've got from my other workflow. So basically everything that's going to be in this prompt is the instructions for our AI agent, how we want to upload the data to our Google Sheet. So you can see when you copy this in, it's really specific. What we want to do if there's certain data is found or isn't found, things like that. Now, one of the key parts of this prompt is how we're going to upload data to the notes column in our Google Sheets. And this is basically going to be where the AI agent really shines out, and it takes in all the information it's received and it writes up kind of a summary about that property, any key information that might be useful for our voice agent. So it's going to mention things like days on the market, any price reductions it's had, what its current price is, what its original price was, unique features, what the property type is like, things like that. So this is going to be really key data that we can use in our voice agent call when we go and call this FSBO. Okay, perfect. Now that's that node done. As you can see in here, actually, just to mention, in our prompt user message, it's going to be something that you want to drag and drop over. But if you just copy this text, it's going to work when you actually go ahead and run this script in real time. So the next part is we want to add our chat models in here. And the chat model that I'm going to add is a Gemini model. So you want to search Gemini here. Click Gemini, and I've already got my account connected, but it's really easy to set up yours. Now we're actually going to be using the 2.5 Pro model here. So if I just search up 2.5 Pro, you're going to see it pops up there. And perfect, that's our model selected. Now the reason we're using a 2.5 Pro model is because the 2.5 Pro model has a context window of 1 million tokens. Now, the reason this is useful is because, as you saw from our detail scraper, we pull in lots and lots of information. And this means that lots of tokens get used when we're sending messages off to our large language model. Now, for other models like OpenAI or Anthropic, a lot of the time this might actually go over the token limit, which might be 200,000 or 500,000. But for a massive context window that 2.5 Pro has, we're making sure that the context window never gets overloaded and our model is always going to work. So that's why we've used a Gemini model in this agent. Now we want to go ahead and add our Google Sheets tool, which is going to allow us to update all the data that we found using our AI agent and all the different tools we've used so far. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add the tool here, and we're going to search for Google Sheets. I'm going to hit the Google Sheets tool, and we want to append or update row. Now, like I said, you would have had to create your Google Sheets document already. So if you haven't done yet, make sure you do it now, because this is where we're going to select it in our N8N workflow. So I'm going to choose mine here, which is the real estate leads here. And it's gone ahead and found the columns. Now, the column that we're going to match on is the URL, because this is going to be what is unique to every data entry that we have in our Google Sheets. Now, for each of these fields, apart from the bottom two, we're actually going to let AI define what this is. So I'm just going to hit let AI define these. I'm going to leave these bottom two for now, because these are going to be updated later in our workflow. Now we want to add descriptions for each of these so that AI knows AI can update them correctly every single time. So we can put the URL of the property listing there. The contact email, we've instructed it that if it isn't found to leave it as NA. Oh, I just missed the contact number one. Let's paste that in there. And then the email. Now for our zip code one, we're going to put in another description. We're going to put in the abbreviated address here. This is what the detail scraper is going to find. And then we have the current property price in here for the property price one. And then the notes are going to be any notes for our voice agent that can use in its call. Perfect. Now that is that node done. And I'm pretty sure that is the whole AI agent done for this part of the workflow. Perfect. So we're just going to hit the save button here, zoom out a little bit so we can see what we've got so far. And now we're going to connect our second part of the workflow up, which is where we're going to actually call these leads. So all we've done so far is we've found them, we found details about them, and then we've updated them to our Google Sheets. Now, the next part of this workflow is we want to get the data we've got from our Google Sheets, so then we can send this information off to our VAPI agent. So I'm going to search in here for another Google Sheets tool, and we're going to get rows here. So we're going to hit there, get rows in a sheet. And again, we want to search for the database that we've got. So we've got the real estate leads, and that's everything that we need for that part of the workflow. We just move this down here just to clear things up. Hit save. Now the next part after that Google Sheets node that we want to add is a filter. And like I mentioned before, this is to filter out data that we couldn't find any contact numbers for. So if I go to the Google Sheets, one of the runs that I had before, see that we've actually got a not found contact number here for a couple of the entries. It's going to replace this last one, but there was a real number in here that was found, properties that we found on Zillow that matched all of our criteria. So what we want to do is we want to filter out these first two, and then we want to just have this last entry, which is where we found a number for. So we're going to go to our NAM module here, and we're going to add a filter node. You would have this to drag and drop over if you'd run these nodes at this point, but if you just copy this text in here, so this is the contact number field that we've got in our our Google Sheets, that text is going to work as if you drag and dropped it over. As long as you obviously make sure that your column names are exactly the same as this. If they're not, it's not going to work. We then want to change this to not equal to, and then we want to type in here not found. Now this is important why we are really specific in our prompts, because we've instructed our AI agent to say not found here, and if it doesn't output that, then this is going to mess up the whole filtering system. Then once you've done that, you want to toggle on here to convert types when required. Now onto the next part of our workflow. We want to add in our for loop, which is going to go through all the numbers in our data set that we found. So we're just going to search up a loop here. Then we're going to leave the batch size as 1. We're just going to delete this node from our loop, and then we're going to hit add here. And then we're going to make a HTTP request to our VAPI agent, which we're going to create in just a moment. So you want to search up HTTP here, add this node in. Then we want to change the method to post as we're outbounding a call. And then we want this to be the URL. So if you go to the VAPI documentation, they've got loads of information on different actions you want to do. If it's sending out a call or getting a transcript, whatever the case may be. But to send out a call, based on all the information that we've got so far, we want to use this URL endpoint. We're then going to turn on send headers here. We want to fill these headers in with all of the different things that are instructed in our documentation. So I'm just going to paste out what I've got. Now, in your first header is the authorization one. You want to put bearer and then your API key. Obviously, I'm not going to copy mine in here, so it can't be used. But you want to get your API key from VAPI, which is really simple, and then you want to paste it in, into this part here. Then our next header is going to be a content type header. So we want to make sure that we copy it in exactly as it is here, content-type, and make sure these are capitalized as well. And then you want the value to be application/JSON. Just like that. And I'm going to toggle on the send body node. Now we're also going to specify the body to be using JSON here. And then I'm going to go and copy and paste the input JSON that we want to send off to our HTTP node. Now this is the JSON that you want to copy over. Again, it's going to be available in the template for you, but you want to copy this JSON over, which is going to send off all the information to our AI voice agent. So it's going to send the number that we want to call, which we're going to get from our Google Sheets. It's going to send the zip code, it's going to send the address, it's going to send the property price, URL, and any note. So it's going to have all of this background information when it goes out and sends this call. Now for our assistant ID, I've left mine out here, but you can go to your VAPI once you've created our agent. I'll show you where to get it. And we want to copy our assistant ID here and the phone number that we're going to get. We're going to get this phone number from either Vonage or Twilio, which is usually the main one. And we want to call using this number. I'm not going to go through how you actually get a number, but it's pretty easy to do. And then you just want to import it to your VAPI account. Now you'll see here that I've actually got a plus before I've got my contact number in here, which is going to be drag and dropped over from our Google Sheets. And that's because I was calling a UK number and I didn't want it to fail when I was going through the testing process of this. But as this is for Zillow and you want to calling American properties, you want to put in a +1 here. So just add a 1. And this will make sure that the call goes through correctly when you're calling these different owners. Obviously, you want to adjust this for whatever different state you're calling, or not state, sorry, whatever country you're calling. So for the UK it's +44, for America it's +1. I'm going to change this for depending on the region that you're calling in. I'm just going to leave this as plus for now, and then that is our HTTP module done. Now going over to VAPI, we're going to create our voice agent, which is actually going to outbound the calls from the number that we give it. So you just want to go ahead to create assistant here. Obviously you want to set up your VAPI account if you haven't already. Leave it as blank template, then we're going to create assistant. Now, the first field that we're going to change is going to be the first message here, and we're just going to say, hey, this is Ben from Apex Property Solutions. Do you have a minute to talk about your property up for sale? Then I'm going to open up our system prompt here, and I've just pasted in the prompts that I've got in my workflow, but obviously you can adjust this however you want to for your different agents. Now I've instructed this agent that it doesn't have to use any tools. All it needs to do is have a conversation with the owner and see if they're interested in setting up a call with one of our agents. Some extra fields here where we're giving it some information that it can use. So the zip code, the property price, the URL, the address, any extra notes, things like that. It's actually a pretty simple prompt as we don't want it to do anything. We just want it to have a conversation with the owner and see if they're interested, but it doesn't have to call any tools or anything like that. So this is actually quite a short prompt as prompts go. So hit update. There's actually everything for our VAPI agent. There's different configurations you can add in the settings here, but for the most part, that is our VAPI agent done. Go ahead and hit publish over here, and then we want to copy our VAPI agent's code here, and we're going to paste that into the HTTP request. So this is obviously going to be unique to you, but the one I've got here, you just want to hit copy assistant ID and then paste that in to your HTTP module. The same thing for phone number. So once you've imported a phone number over from Twilio or Vonage, wherever the case may be, you're going to have this same button here, which you can copy the phone number ID, and you want to paste that also into your HTTP module. For the next part, we want to add a wait module in here. So it's going to allow the call to go through. The agents have time to talk to the owner. And then after that, we're going to get the transcript from the conversation. So we want to add in a wait node here, which I'm going to add just like that. And we can select this to be however long we want to be. I would say probably a good amount of time to wait is 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how lengthy the conversation is. So just for the sake of arguments, let's put it in as 10. Then after that, we want to add in another HTTP request, and this is where we're going to get the transcript, and we're going to give that to our AI agent. So we're going to leave this as get, and now our URL endpoint is going to be a little bit different to the one that we use to outbound a call. Now the URL that we've got here is similar to what we had before, but we've got a JSON ID here, and this is going to be the ID for the call we just outbounded a call to. So you're obviously going to drag and drop this over from your HTTP request that we've got over here. If you copy this text again, this should work. We're then going to toggle on send headers. And then just like before, we want to put in authorization and then bearer, space, and then your API key. And that's actually everything that we need for this HTTP request. And that's going to allow us to get details about the call. We're then going to add in our final AI agent. So we're going to click AI here, AI agent, change this to define below. And then in the user prompt section, we're going to have the call transcript, which we're going to give the agent. So it can use this to see what happened in the call, if the owner was interested in talking to an agent, etc. And then we want to add in our system message here. And then I've gone ahead and pasted what I've got in my workflow. So I've said you're a call analysis agent for Apex Property Solutions, which is the fake real estate agent company that I've just created. And its job is to analyze the call transcript and then fill out Google Sheets with the information that it found for the call. And then we're going to generate a summary of this for all the data that we've actually found from our Google Sheets. And then we're going to output this to senders an email. Now, as you notice, it's in a loop. So the reason that we've told it to give us this output where it summarizes all the data is because this AI agent is not going to know when it's the last item in the loop. So we're going to make sure that it outputs every time all the data it finds, and it gives us a summary each time it goes through the loop. So that when it does get to the last point in the loop, it's going to send out a summary to our email. So going back to the prompt, I'm not going to go through this in too much detail, but it's essentially going to analyze the transcript. It's going to summarize the conversation that we've got. It's going to give examples of what a good summary is and how to fill in that cool summary column. So if I go over here to our cool summary column, it's the cool follow-up notes, and it's going to fill in the interest column here as well with yes or no. I'm then going to determine the interest level. So if they did want to call an agent and set up a meeting with our real estate agents at Apex Property Solutions, interest indicators that there might be if they're not interested, what to do if it's a maybe, and there's other detail to just make sure that we clean up all the different edge cases for our AI agent. We can actually leave this as fixed. There's no variables that are going to be in there. And then we want to add our chat model. So this time we're going to be using an OpenAI model. So I'm just going to hit OpenAI. And then we can leave this as we don't want anything. That's fine. Higher reasoning model, you can go ahead and select the GPT-5 one, but I think you need to submit some company information or something like that. So it's not available to everyone unless you do that. We're just going to add a simple memory node in here. And we're going to change this to define below. And the key we want to put in here is the execution ID. So this is when the workflow was triggered. Now we want to add two different Google Sheets nodes. So we're going to add our first one here, which is where we're going to update the Google Sheets with the information from the call. So I'm going to change this to append or update row. Again, select our data set that we have here. The column to match on is going to be the URL. Now to fill in this URL column here, we're going to make sure that this is the looped over items. So this is going to be each item that is going through the for loop. We are going to make sure that it's matching on that specific URL for that property that it's going through at that point in time. Then the rest of these we can leave apart from the bottom two, which we're going to let AI define the cool follow-up notes and the interest. So we're going to put a description here for the cool follow-up notes, and this is going to be where the cool summarization notes need to go. And then the interest, we're just going to fill this with yes or no if the user is interested in setting up a meeting or a call with one of our real estate agents. Now for our other Google Sheets tool, we're going to, again, search up Google there, and then we're going to get the rows from our dataset. Now this one's really simple. You just got to select the data set you want. And this is pretty much going to allow us to every time go to our Google Sheets, check all of the data we've got in there, and it's going to allow the AI agent to create a full summary to send off in an email. Now that is actually pretty much the whole workflow complete. We're now going to just drag this around to our for loop, and this is going to make sure that it goes in a loop for each of the items. And then we're just going to add our final node in here when everything's done. And this is going to be to send an email to our cells to summarize all of the data that's been searched and found. I'm going to hit send a message. And then you want to fill out these fields here with the email you want to send it to. So obviously put your email in here, or whoever's it is you want to send the analysis to. Put the subject as whatever you want. I just put it as your Zillow analysis is complete. Change the email type to text instead of HTML. So that's what's going to be the output from our AI agent. And then I'm going to make sure the message is as follows. So your Zillow analysis is complete. Here's the breakdown. And then we're going to drag and drop our output from our AI agent here. Again, if you just copy this text, you're going to get the correct output. Okay, amazing. So that is pretty much our whole workflow complete. I've obviously got an error in here because I haven't filled it out with my email, but if I had, it wouldn't be an error. It would be all good to go. So that is the whole workflow complete now. We're going to hit save here. And we can go ahead and test this out. We've got my other workflow I've built, of course. As long as you've inputted all these fields correctly and there's no typos or anything, you may have to do a little bit of debugging. Everyone makes mistakes, but it should run correctly and it will output a call to the data that you've got in your Google Sheets. Obviously, if you're not based in the US, you might have some problems with calling. That's why I changed the data in the Google Sheets here to be a +44 number so I could actually test and receive these calls. But in reality, this whole workflow would work as soon as you've done the form submission. This will go from start to finish. And 10 minutes later or so, you should get an analysis email giving you the update of everything that you've had. So hopefully you guys found this real estate tutorial useful. It can save you hours and hours of time and generate thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue. And this template itself is something that you can copy and use, and you can sell to these different real estate agencies thousands of dollars even yourself. So if you found this useful, please hit the like and subscribe button. As always, go to the description to get a hold of the templates and any resources I've used. But that is all for today, and I will see you in the next video.